Croeso I Ceredigion. I'm Niamh. I'm a filmmaker and creative. I'm 20 years old and I've lived in Ceredigion for a decade now, but originally I'm from Beitha. I'm extremely lucky to live in this breathtaking place. It's very different to the valleys. Today is the 5th of June 2023 and the beginning of World Pride Month. And people are starting to celebrate by raising rainbow bunting and starting their rambunctious celebrations and powerful parades. And the 2021 census revealed that Ceredigion was actually the queerest place for under 24s, beating out Brighton and Hove. But as Brighton begins its celebrations and we walk around Ceredigion, I can't help but notice that things are a little bit quieter. So many stories are hidden here. If you look at the LGBT archive on Wikipedia, there are 2 examples. 2. A female poet whose page has barely any information, and perhaps ironically, the Little Britain character of David, the only gay in the village. I want to find out who the real faces of LGBTQ+ Ceredigion are in 2023. I know that there is so much more to our queer community than a fictional character from 10 years ago on TV. Aberystwyth Pride relaunched this year for the first time since 2012 and it brought in over 200 people. So we know there are stories to be told and voices to be heard, but where are they?
Since Pride, there has been very little cohesion of the community. Sometimes it can feel quite lonely. So I decided to get in contact with some amazing LGBTQ+ people in our beautiful county, and I'm going to take you with me to learn, to love these people's stories. First, I'm heading away from the sea to explore the lush woodlands of Ceredigion and to meet Leo and hear his story.
Hi, I'm Leo. I'm a trans man from Cilia Aeron. I realised I was transgender when I was about 13, 14. At that time, I didn't know any other trans people around. It wasn't really spoken of or known about. There was no TikTok or influencers or anything alike on social media. So really Google became my best friend in that instance, and that's when I found the term transgender. It was actually a relief, I think, to have sort of come to the conclusion of, that's what I was feeling and that's what I was experiencing, and that I could sort of find other people that were experiencing the same thing as me. When I came out as trans, my friends and family, I think, were my biggest support network. However, other people in the community weren't so supportive. For example, in the workplace at that time, people would often misgender me and use my birth name, which was quite discouraging and made me feel quite anxious because the job was to speak to the public, and it made me feel like if they thought that about me, what would the public think about me?
What about the healthcare aspect of that? Was it quite difficult?
It was quite difficult. I remember going to my doctor and he'd mentioned that the whole trans thing is a grey area, which was quite discouraging as I think I was supposed to trust him the most. I think in terms of Ceredigion having a profound LGBT community, I do definitely think there's a lot of us around here. We're definitely there. I just don't think there's any support networks to bring us together to really show that.
Do you feel a sense of LGBTQ+ community in Ceredigion at all?
I do definitely believe that there are a lot of LGBTQ people here. We just don't have a safe space to be able to meet each other and make new friends.
I'm so grateful to Leo for sharing his story with me and sharing his sense of longing for a more cohesive community and network of support for queer people here in Ceredigion. To find out more about the bigger picture of support and safety for the LGBTQ+ people of Ceredigion, I've come back to Aberystwyth to meet Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm 36 years old. I'm a police officer in Aberystwyth. I moved to Aberystwyth from Warwickshire to be with my wife, Ruth. When I joined the police in 2006, I was 20 years old, and it was part of my journey, part of my coming out story. I was never out with my sexuality before I joined the police, but being in the police force, it just made me feel very comfortable with who I am, and the support from the organisation and my colleagues was the reason I am who I am today. In Ceredigion, I feel it's one of the safest places to live crime-wise within the country, but for LGBT people, there's been 20 hate crimes reported recently, and those are just the ones that we know about. I'm sure there's many that we don't know about from people that haven't come forward. You know, they might not be out, so they might not feel comfortable to come forward and report such a crime. My sexuality has been used against me whilst I've been working, not from my colleagues at all, but from people that I've dealt with. I've been the victim of a homophobic crime whilst dealing with somebody, and we live in such a small community that everyone knows who I am. Really, everyone knows that I'm married to Ruth, but it's not something that I openly say when I'm dealing with members of the public, because there's always that fear that someone is going to use that against you. Attitudes in Ceredigion are changing. I feel like when I first moved here they were very much in the past, but I feel there's a lot of work to be done around here. Like myself, I'm not comfortable walking along the prom holding my wife's hand sometimes, and mainly that could be because of my job as well. I don't want someone to see me who I deal with at work, but I don't feel like I should have to feel like that as well. Yeah. If I was in a city, I would just blend into the people, really. I'm very proud to be LGBT. Yeah. For me, I'm just a normal person, yeah. and that's how I like to be thought of and treated and accepted.
Mm. Beautiful. And do you feel that there's a sense of LGBTQ plus community in Ceredigion at all?
No, I don't think there's an LGBT plus community in Ceredigion. I don't personally feel like I need to be part of an LGBT plus community, but I don't feel there is one if there was people who wanted to have the support from peers. I feel attitudes need to change. We all need to grow as a community to go forward. They are slowly progressing, and I feel in the future there won't be so much discrimination towards LGBT people.
I've had an incredible time learning more about Leo and Rachel's queer lives in Ceredigion. I'm sure we could already see that there is more than the only gay in the village. But I'm not closer to understanding the census data that makes Ceredigion the queerest hub for 16 to 24-year-olds in the UK. So I've come to Aberystwyth University to chat with some young people about the stats. So the first stat I've got for you is nearly 16% of people aged 16 to 24 in Ceredigion identified as LGBTQ. So what do you think about that?
I think that makes sense to me, personally. I think that statistic is probably made up of both the university and local population in this town. And I found for me personally, when growing up, the secondary I went to was quite welcoming and very open. I found a lot of my friends during secondary were sort of openly LGBTQ and queer, and it was quite nice that. So I don't find that statistic being that high that surprising, to be honest.
Okay. What do you think about that, Katya?
I completely agree with you, Ashley. I think that the people in Ceredigion are lovely. It's a very welcoming place to live. It's such a beautiful place to live. And I think people aren't afraid to just be themselves here because of the kind of natural support network you get just from the town itself and all the towns surrounding Aberystwyth.
So you both are studying or studied in university, you're studying in Aberystwyth and you studied in London. The Office of National Statistics actually said that higher proportions of LGBT people tend to have higher percentages with places with more than one university. So as uni students, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I could definitely see that being true. So it's quite a nice sort of calm area here. It's very lovely here. So I know up in the university we have the Society, which is a nice little community, which has a lot more members in it than I would have thought. But I know that Ashley and I had very different experiences in uni, because here in Aberystwyth it's very low key. Like, you know there are members, but nothing's ever really said about it, you know?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, yeah, like Emma said, there's certainly truth to that statistic. And yeah, I would say Aberystwyth is much more sort of low-key in comparison to, say, how sort of people are out and proud in London, for example, because, well, it's London, you know,
Yeah.
the number of universities there, the amount of diversity and the amount of just sort of queer students who I got to know and just found a community in London. So I found when I returned to Aberystwyth, it was much more sort of not sort of gone, but sort of more docile, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the next point, I know that Cardiff and Ceredigion are obviously very different places. Ceredigion's population is 72,000, whereas Cardiff's is 362,000, so very different. But actually, Cardiff and Ceredigion matched on the same statistic of 0.7% of people identifying as a different gender compared to their one assigned at birth. So what do you think about that, Kat?
I think, again, the university definitely does help to bring a lot of that in, but because we've got a surprisingly large population for such a rural area, we've got a whole hospital as well as several doctor surgeries nearby, as well as good rail links to places like Birmingham with even better facilities. So I think things like that help people to be out and open about it sooner, rather than people who live in very rural places where they might have to wait until they can move to a city or a larger town. So that will definitely help bring the percentage up a bit.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's been fantastic. I mean, when you have people coming in from all different walks of life, I suppose, and congregating in one small area, you are going to see a change in diversity and an increase. So thank you very much, guys. It's been great. Thank you. That insightful conversation shows that the census data was correct. There are more queer people than you might assume when walking around the towns and along the beautiful beaches. But where is the hub and the sense of community? How can we bring people together? I sought the advice of Ren, who was responsible for resurrecting Aber Pride earlier this year on April 22nd, 2023, and arranged to meet them back at the bandstand where Pride happened. Thank you so much for meeting me. What made you want to bring Pride back?
So we haven't had Pride in Aber since 2012, and we had a loose committee that didn't really get anywhere. And January rolled around, and it was kind of, at that point I already felt like it was a bit embarrassing that we didn't have a Pride in Aberystwyth, seeing as like it's the biggest town in Ceredigion, you know. And then the census rolled around, and we've got the highest population of like LGBTQ people, especially non-binary people. And I was just kind of, yeah, this is really embarrassing now. And I was getting over that winter funk, and I thought, let's just do stuff.
Would you do Pride again?
Definitely. Not on my own.
Not on your own.
But I would have a few more people, but I was saying to someone earlier that people kept offering to help, but I didn't actually know what I needed people to do.
Yeah.
Because like the only other event I put on that involved more than me and my kids is my wedding. So I didn't really know what I needed people to do, but I know for next year now. My brain, the cogs are already turning.
So, with Ren's enthusiasm to create more events coupled with our findings that there are loads of brilliant queer people in Ceredigion, but noticeably, outside of the university, very little community cohesion, we decided to open up the bandstand and invite some friends to come and share their experiences and their hopes and visions for the queer future of Ceredigion.
Throughout my whole time I've been here, it's all been there. Like, you can see it in people, but it's very not spoken about enough. Because I feel like especially in high school and like college, it's not like inappropriate, but they make it seem like it's not a like safe topic to talk about, which is, I think, is ridiculous. I think all of it in town is just so low key and like hidden, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
With it all, so I like it to be more open, so to say.
Emma, can you empathise with any of that?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, because as you said, it's like in town, so for example, like there's not really much like representation, as you said, like walking around and like just, I don't know, on social media you can see that there are loads of queer people in this area, like in Ceredigion, but then the most you'll see to do with Pride is like the occasional display in like a charity shop or something, and then as you said, like people treat being LGBTQ as like an inappropriate topic.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but why?
some of you might not know, Pride was redone for the first time since 2012.
Fabulous.
And we're very lucky to have Ren here who organised the Pride. So why do you think it was important to have the Pride? Did you guys enjoy?
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it. Like, I was exhausted afterwards, but it was really good. And so many people turned up. I was really not surprised. No, I really was surprised. Sorry. But I thought, oh yeah, some people will come. 30, 40, 50 people tops. Yeah, 200 people like rocked up to the bandstand. I was not prepared for that, but I was absolutely thrilled. I was on a high for days afterwards because I just think it was definitely what we needed, really, you know? Yeah. It was a bit embarrassing that we hadn't had one.
Ash, what do you think? You were there.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely needed here. It's good that we had such an outward display of queer people existing in Ceredigion. I came out in 2018. My cousin, a year younger than me, came out a few years later. He was also at the Pride. Him and his partner had been walking around in town before, and they'd gotten quite a few nasty comments about it because, yeah, I mean, I also went through the whole I'm a queer person, I've been harassed, but my cousin told me about this when I'd arrived at the Pride, and there was such a horrible feeling of knowing we're all here, we're all celebrating, but it's not a celebration, it's a protest. It was so necessary, and I think at least I tend to overlook it in Aberystwyth because we're that queer capital. I sometimes do forget that we're very privileged here. Having something that was a protest, but still culminated in the celebration of what we are here in Aber, I just think it was really important.
Pride for me was very important because it was the first Pride that I had been since about like 2012, somewhere along that sort of line. And back then it was in England and there was like a bunch of protesters and whatnot. So this was my first Pride in a while. And at first it was all good. What happened is that me and a bunch of queer friends, we were walking back from Pride adorned in like Pride gear and flags and whatnot, and it's from there that we actually got harassed a few times, and it dawned on me, not really dawned on me, but it was then when I sort of realised that, oh yeah, queer is to this day still a protest, like you said, and it is something that is still needed, and it is still a statement piece rather than celebrating something that was bad, not bad, but it's something that was problematic in the past or deemed problematic, and it is still relevant that we need Pride to this day.
On that note, how do you think us as a group and the future of Ceredigion's LGBT community, how do you think we can improve and develop for the future?
I think more groups would be beneficial for the community, whether that's people that haven't come out yet or people that have been out for years. A space that's inclusive to make more friends and to network with other people of the same community.
Yeah. Do you often feel like it's networking as opposed to trying to find people?
I believe so. Yeah.
Quite difficult.
Yeah.
What about you, Rachel?
I agree. I feel like we need some sort of social group, just for people to meet, people to have that support. I mean, I don't feel like I need it. I've got where I want to be in my life. But there's so many young people in the community that need help, just to meet other people who think like them, who understand what it's like to have comments that are made to you and just to be there for each other, really.
Yeah, it's like we don't want this lot to have to go through what we went through, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Kat, what do you think?
I think it's important to not only have spaces, but to have a range of spaces, because while I would love either a fully gay club or one of the clubs or bars to have regular nights for queer people to get together and meet, I think it's also important to remember that because we live in such a rural area, it's hard for a lot of people to get home after nights out, after things like that, where they've got to drive or get buses or taxis. Yeah. So I think we also need places like coffee shops, maybe bookshops, anything like that, to have more daytime activities to help people meet each other, help people get together. So that it's not all centred around alcohol, because I think there is a bit of stigma around queer people and clubs and bars and things, and I think every queer person I know loves books, loves plants, loves going to coffee shops, so I think if we can bring us to those places, they'd make so much money and we'd all be there all the time. And I think, going off what these two said, I think it is very, very important for people my age and the next generation of queer people, because we are kind of the future of queer people and queer people in Ceredigion, and it's important if we set these spaces up now, we set ourselves up for success down the line.
So now, we look ahead. Here is our manifesto for the future of Queer Ceredigion.
We wanted to make a safe community, and here we are.
We are here. We are speaking. We love.
Hear our voices.
Cofiwch ni. Remember us. See us. Hear us.
We exist, and we wanted to create a space that represents a safe home for the people of Ceredigion, whether you're a university student or a lonely soul in the towns.
Or someone who wants to be heard.
We want you to know that we will be here for you and will continue to be here, to strive to make Ceredigion a beautiful place with lovely people, hand in hand.
We are looking to the future to find the voices of others to join our song.
You can and we'll be right here by your side.
We are a community of support, of appreciation and of love, and that's not changing anytime soon. Love is love, and love is here. Croeso I Ceredigion.
Another time washed up last week's decay. Summers unite with their board knives out to cut the nets around the wildlife. I hope they get out of there alive. Keep on asking